The magnetic tape hisses with a violent layer of white noise before a distorted image flickers into existence. A young man with a heavy camcorder gasps for air while the beam of his flashlight cuts through a cloud of thick asbestos dust. Behind him, a heavy iron door slams shut with a metallic echo that seems to vibrate through the very fabric of the film. There is no handle on the inside. The camera pans frantically to a row of shattered observation windows where a silhouette moves against the darkness, not with the gait of a human, but with the fluid, unnatural grace of something that has lived in the shadows for decades. The mid-90s represented a golden era for amateur documentation, characterized by the bulky convenience of the VHS-C camcorder. In the autumn of 1995, 4 university students equipped with such a device decided to cross the perimeter fence of the Blackwood Psychiatric Institute. The facility had been shuttered since the late 70s following allegations of experimental treatments and systemic neglect. To the public, it was an eyesore of crumbling brick and ivy. To the explorers, it was a challenge. They intended to capture the reality of urban decay, but the footage they left behind suggests they captured something far more sentient. The recovered tape begins with a deceptive sense of adventure, showing the group laughing as they navigate the overgrown courtyard, unaware that the building was not as empty as the records claimed. As the group enters the main lobby, the quality of the video degrades, plagued by tracking errors that seem to synchronize with the explorers' proximity to the isolation wards. The sunlight fades, replaced by the oppressive, sickly green hue of the camcorder's night vision mode. The audio captures the rhythmic crunch of broken glass and the distant, rhythmic dripping of water. One member of the group, identified only as Mark, points the camera toward a series of patient records scattered across the floor. The documents are dated years after the hospital was officially closed. The atmosphere shifts from curiosity to palpable dread when they reach the 3rd floor. Unlike the lower levels, the 3rd floor remains perfectly preserved. The beds are made, the medical carts are stocked with rusted instruments, and the smell of ozone fills the air. The explorers stop joking. The camera remains fixed on a long, dark hallway where the shadows seem to pool like liquid. It is here that the first anomaly occurs. A wheelchair, positioned at the far end of the corridor, begins to roll slowly toward the group. There is no wind, and the floor is uneven in the opposite direction. The tape captures the frantic whispers of the group as they debate whether to turn back or push forward into the heart of the facility. The climax of the footage occurs in the basement laboratories, a place not found on any official architectural blueprint of the Institute. The explorers find the room lined with copper mesh, designed to act as a Faraday cage. Inside, the walls are covered in thousands of tally marks scratched deep into the plaster. The camera operator's hands shake as he focuses on a television monitor in the corner of the room. Despite there being no power to the building, the monitor is active, displaying a live feed of the explorers themselves from a high-angle perspective. Panic erupts. The group turns to find the exit, but the geometry of the basement seems to have shifted. They pass the same hydrotherapy pool 3 times, each time finding the water darker and more agitated. The audio becomes a cacophony of distorted screams and mechanical grinding. The camera falls to the ground during a frantic sprint, capturing a final, terrifying sequence. In the periphery of the frame, pale figures emerge from the open patient rooms. They do not attack, they simply stand and watch with hollowed expressions as the explorers vanish into the labyrinth. The tape ends with 30 minutes of static, occasionally broken by the sound of a rhythmic tapping against the plastic casing of the camcorder. The recovery of the 1995 VHS tape has provided more questions and answers for forensic linguists and historical researchers. No trace of the 4 students was ever found by local authorities, and the Blackwood Psychiatric Institute was demolished under a strict gag order in late 1996. Some suggest the tape is an elaborate hoax, a product of clever editing and practical effects. However, the physical degradation of the magnetic particles and the specific electromagnetic interference patterns recorded on the film are nearly impossible to replicate. The footage stands as a grim reminder of the thin veil between the present and the traumatic echoes of the past. It suggests that certain locations serve as vessels for collective memory, or perhaps as traps for those who are too curious. The 1995 incident remains a cornerstone of urban legend, a digital ghost story born from an analog era. To watch the tape is to look into a window of a world that operates on a logic entirely foreign to our own, where the walls remember every scream, and the shadows are never truly empty. As the final frame fades to black, the viewer is left with the haunting realization that some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed again.